Hello, everybody. Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Mm. White with a clear advantage based on material. But we're going to go through and look at a spot that I missed. So let the machine calculate how, rather, review the game. Calculate how the game went through or review it. here we are. Black's first move is strange, not very good overall, but all 20 black responses are, I think, categorized or cataloged or both. I played c4, and then knight c3 was wrong, right? We should put I debated queen h5 check first, and then black's gonna block, of course, and the queen might just go right back to the d1 square, but we've loosened up the pawns on black's king side by way of this one-off check here. Let's take a look on this mode. Let's see what. Yeah, so the computer recommends d4. I'm surprised that, somewhat surprised that queen d1 to h5 check is not considered one of the top moves. It's a clear weakening of black's pawn structure without really any damage beyond that. Maybe a tempo or two lost by the queen going back to d1, but I don't know. Maybe it's something to try if this position arises in the future. Now I have knight to c3, and after bishop c5, white's just picking up the bishop, but that's not what I'm looking at. I'm talking about here. d4, and then castles. Well, maybe I did all right. It would be nice instead of, let's play against the computer here for a sec. Like the queen is being hit, so she has to go somewhere good. We don't want her to be hit by this knight at some time. So what does the computer like if I play queen a3? A knight comes out, so we'll stabilize our pawns. But what I really like now is the potential for the bishop to come to h6. When this knight develops either to e7 directly or after pawn to f5, that knight develops, this h6 square is going to be very strong for white's dark squared bishop. Sometimes preventing kingside castling, or if castling has occurred, winning a tempo against the rook at f8. So this is a theme we want to hold on to. And in some situations, you might outright prevent black from developing his g8 knight. Of course, we have to be aware all the while of the possibility in this position of knight to c2 check, winning the queen, or even if the queen has moved, winning the a1 rook. That has to be dealt with right away. And this other thing about the bishop going to h6 is probably a more long-term problem, but a problem for black. So who are we playing? We have I played d3. It's knight to d4. Now the computer's going to kick my butt here. We know that, but there's probably some move to get back into protecting the c2 square without all that much going to craziness. Now king to f7 is just bad, right? I don't know why the computer at maximum would ever play king to f7 here. Let's see if I can beat it. Okay, rid of this knight that's too powerful on d4. And I'm going to play to d5 quickly with my knight, knowing that if c6, I have a solid escape square here on f4 and a solid escape square here on b4. So my opponent didn't kick the knight and chose instead to harass the queen with the move bishop to d7. Trying to find if there's any attack that gets at both b7 and d4. There is not. So then the question becomes, do I keep the initiative or hold on to some matter of initiative with a move like queen b4 or queen b3, hitting the pawn at b7, or perhaps a more long-term retreat, for instance, to d1. I'm going to play. My reasons for queen b4 are rather complicated. Mostly, yeah, that if my opponent wants to kick the knight, the queen stays. If my opponent wanted to kick the bishop, the knight stays, and the knight would stay for a very long time, having no pawns to attack it. No pawns can attack this knight. He's on a light square, and there are minor pieces of that color. Knight that has yet to be developed, so maybe not forever, but this would be a very strong position for White's knight in the short term to medium term. Long term, he's probably going to get kicked by something. My opponent made the very logical move of pawn to c6, kicking the knight immediately. So like I said about the escape square, I think knight to f4 is fine. And then, this is a whole different game. White has a very strong advantage in material, king safety, some advantage in development, which is really mobility. Although the light squared bishop, it might have difficulties. It's a game, and White's ahead by almost a full rook. Back to the game as it occurred. So just grab some space in the center with d4. Let my c1 bishop buttress or support the queen along this c1 to h6 diagonal. Black castles kingside. The queen comes into h6, and this is my worry during the game was that I was thinking here, darn it, I could have had bishop at h6, and it turns out through what I showed just a second ago, that's not quite as direct as it seemed. So I'm okay with that now. And then after h4, my opponent resigned. White is ahead by a lot. So a position like this, that against computer, let's give it a try here. But against computer, this is going to be difficult to win because computers really are just that good at chess. Okay, so just trying to pry open in the center. I'm actually going to lock things down, noting that the bishop, or the knight on d7 rather, the knight on d7 might come to c5. This is my only worry about pushing d5 here. Nothing all too much more aggressive. We could trade on e5, but I don't like that. Too many options. Knight takes e5, d takes e5, f takes e5, with the rook now staring down at White's king side. Alternatively, the knight at c5 is if after d4 or after d4 to d5, the knight at c5. Pretty good outpost. We can kick it. We'll only have one shot to do that. So let's try pawn to d5. See where he puts the knight. He didn't. Okay, strange. He, she, or they. He, she, they, or computer. This is actually, we're going to sacrifice a bishop here. Okay, so that sacrifice is unsound. Yeah. Under tournament time controls, I would not have done that. So Let's go back to king going here, and I thought maybe pawn to h5. Was that something I would do in a tournament? No. Right. Problem with pawn to h5 is your queen safety. My queen safety. White's queen safety here is jeopardized by that move. G4 might go well. Push again. And again, White's queen safety is in jeopardy. So. Look, like I said, most times against a human, I'll close down a lead of this magnitude. Against a computer, they're too good. They're so good. checks winning. Let's go back a few. I think that the move. There's. Yeah. Well, I tried it, but it looks like I'd say the computer is just too strong. Maybe something better than rook to h4. I don't know. We could try trading bishops, but we're losing a pawn in the process. Then he here they is penetrating on the f file. But like I say, against human opposition, I'm gonna be able to close this position down. This is a position he resigned. I'm protecting my opponent's decision to resign here. I mean, not he doesn't. They don't need my protection. But I'm saying like this is a respectful resign, even though it's early. Let's play another game. We're gonna play the next win. Okay. Okay. Sites. Let's review this game here. This player's a little bit better than me. Not night and day. I think I made his first 3 wins contested wins, meaning he had to do his work. You know, he's playing chess, and I had some ideas in there. Some worked, some didn't. This is in the game that I won. I was eventually able to win a game. I think we also drew a game where I had like a really where the board was won, where More Gravity had the board won. Yeah, here this 59 move game. I'm gonna treat it as a win so I can review it. But first, let's go over the game that just finished. D4, D5. Some London system, I think. We're in Shigurn, Queen's Pawn opening, Shigurn, Irish variation. Just developed with tempo a couple times, and now I have a lead in development, behind in material because of the pawn grab on b7, which I think was probably right. Computer doesn't like it, but we move on. And with knight to d4, all I'm saying is, what are you going to do about the potential of a fork on c2, where white might lose material or have to compromise his king's ability to castle, or in some other way defend c2. Bishop d2, that's, yeah, so this is the computer suggests also thematic and strong. Develop, protect the piece, keep your king where he belongs, keep your material where it belongs. I'm talking your, meaning white, and that's a strong move. Black is still deemed to have an advantage based mostly on a mobility, and the mobility that black has as an advantage is from superior development. Even if white has an extra pawn, black can play for the initiative and probably keep an advantage for a little while, or win, or both. And here we see my opponent played the strong move, Bishop d3, as Stockfish 17.1 suggested. I played Bishop to c6, hitting at the queen, hitting at g2 in a way that might follow up with the capture of g1. It's a threat response sort of system, it's a threat response sort of playing style here that I'm employing. Aggressive at every turn. Aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. Like Richie Aprile in The Sopranos. Always aggressive, no matter who he's talking to or with, even if it's someone, higher status within the mafia. Richie Aprile is aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. So, the game didn't really get much chance to go on in a proper way because queen takes b6 check isn't the move for white, and now black's up by a queen to a bishop and probably has lost a pawn and somewhere involved. But notice that wasn't the end of the whole thing here. That my opponent played on, I think, resigning after move 31. So we'll give he, her, or they a lot of credit for making a game out of this, even when down a queen to a piece. Let's see how it went. So f3 looks a little strange, but it's sound for sure. And my opponent's saying, my knight has another place to go. I mean, you got the queen. Let me build a strong structure here and see what you got. Let's test your mettle. And for that reason, knight to e2 is a strong move. Just very protected even if it's in his own half of the board, this knight is, has some places to move forward in either a defensive way or in some situations an aggressive way. So these knights protecting each other, like on e2 to c3, you see this from time to time. They're very solid, and you can see why. One goes, the other replaces the first, with the same sort of coverage that might have induced black to make the first one go in the first place. If black wants to trade off this knight because his coverage is interfering with his plans, then to have another knight backing it up is a bit of a thorn in black's side. Alright, so I played bishop to b4, getting a piece out, the pin, plans of reducing material, all kinds of standard ideas when ahead in material. Kingside castles, I wouldn't have. Keep the king there, put the bishop to d2. There's no pin. The knight is like very, very protected. Your king is not really under all that much pressure along the file because of the black pawn on e5. You're castling into this beautiful diagonal, and black has two pieces, either of which can, at a moment's notice, just one move each, hop onto that diagonal and give check. Your white's opening up his or their side of the board for some tactics that might be difficult to avoid. So this castling move, I'm not proud of. I'm not happy about. No, happy about it, but I would play bishop d2 here. The idea again is, look, you're down a queen, or almost you're down a queen to a piece. Make your side of the board super strong, super safe. And then if black tries to lash out, he might make might make a calculative error, might make an error in calculation. So anyway, kingside castles by white, kingside castles by black. Knight b5 is strong. Getting an active knight. This is the other alternative, sort of sitting back and say, what you got is, I'm down, I can still get you, right? That's in a situation of war or battle or a fight, that's the way to go. So knight b5 is with, I'm down, I can still get you. Also, on a practical level, avoids trades on c3, right? This bishop now is hitting at a whole lot of air. Oh no, it's fly. I thought I said air. It's Air Jordan. Fly. Nike symbol. Okay, got that straight. Let's keep going. Now I played knight to d4 because it looks like it's going to be trade town soon for black and for white in this game. That one of these white knights might escape a trade, but not likely that they both will. So my opponent said, then I'll seize the initiative with knight takes d4, and I captured back correctly, right? Of course, the queen here this is not the way. E takes d4. This definitely is the way, and we've sort of turned this knight move to b5 on its head here. The knight most of its moves are covered by a weaker piece nonetheless, or he'll be captured without black having incurred a loss. The only real safe square for the b5 knight to travel is to a3. And then b takes a3. Oh no, sorry. Is to a3, and then bishop takes a3, b takes a3, and at least white has avoided a massive material loss, but there's now double pawns. He's already down the queen to a piece and all sorts of craziness like that. So I guess in that sense we are to be critical maybe of knight at e2 takes d4. Perhaps better is knight at b takes d4. Right? So now bishop to c5. we're this knight. Yeah, I mean he's going, man. He's going or he's not going, but looks like he's going. All the squares that knight might travel to are either blocked completely, like on a3, or covered by the uh, movement paths of black pieces, where he'll incur a loss. So in desperate measure, bishop to g5 is barely holding it together here for white. Pawn to a6 anyway. And then again, barely holding this together, I'd say, in some ways. A move like pawn to b4. I say, this guy knows his defense. This guy, Galler, they know their defense. This is a Petrosian type protection by white, except Petrosian would not be down as queen. I mean, in that time and era, if Tau got up a queen to a piece against Petrosian, Petrosian would resign. A6 takes b5, and it's just some trades here. We're using this pawn as sort of a way to control a lot of mobility that white would otherwise have, especially here in the center of the board. This pawn, it's hard to say that this pawn on d4 is the best piece on the board. Probably the queen, right? But this pawn on d4 is the second best piece on the board, protecting attacks against the queen or down the middle. The potential of, say, queen takes c5, and then maybe later on d4 to d3 check, and some tactics winning there. That's also huge. Central squares, controlling c3, controlling e3, occupying d4. I'd say the queen is the strongest piece on the board here, and the pawn on d4, the second strongest on the entire chessboard. I mean, that doesn't mean I'll take it off in exchange. I wouldn't. What was this? That doesn't mean I'd turn down, being granted a third rook. I wouldn't turn down being granted a third rook on c8 I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, look, for being a pawn, it's extremely strong where it is on d4. Got myself into a circle there. Was it about a third rook? Maybe not, but it's still at rook strength. There's a saying like that. I can't get to it right now. My opponent here trades on f6. It's even in a tournament conditions, you keep this bishop. If you're gonna play on down a piece to a queen, I really wouldn't trade pieces like that. So I'm happy to see that this king is not worried about his broken defenses here. This is not a worry for black. There's a white pawn in the way, and so the rooks aren't gonna create something crazy to follow up, and then like if these guys double, and one of them gets to g7, and then the rook captures on h7 because he's guarded by this pretty darn nice bishop on d3. Like that kind of stuff is all off, mostly because of the white kingside pawns being in the way of any sort of attack like that, and the king having to move out of the way, and then it costing 1, 2, 3 moves to double, and then another move. It's not there. It's not there. Even if just by way of h2 and g2 being there, that kind of attack is not on our minds. So for that reason, bishop takes f6. Was it bishop or was it bishop? Yeah, it had to be that. A bishop takes the knight at f6, and g takes f6 doesn't help white's side of the game. Anyway, I was glad to see it, because now I'm on to, I'm on to other things. It's one that's equal material being traded off favors the side up by 2 or more points of material. One or more, maybe. One or more, But if you're down one pawn, and you want to trade off your knight for another knight, chance maybe you have a good attacking plan behind it, then do it. Otherwise, you gotta be careful about trading equal material while you're already down. All right, queen takes c5. Just getting this 5-point material lead back intact, and there's pawn to a3. And some of this was just a lot of calculation. What we'd see, we have d3 check, right? You wouldn't make this move if it weren't for the check, because then you just lose the pawn outright. King into the corner. I like this from a player's standpoint. I like this. Lots of opportunity for back rank checkmates. There are, I count 4 chess pieces which could feasibly back rank checkmate white here. Of course, you could always count these pawns as well, but their chance to back rank checkmate is in the future. Okay. But the rooks can back rank, the queen can back rank, and the pawn at c2 is looking forward to some of that as well. White pieces and other officials have been so very hard on him and his village that he's going to get some revenge. Probably after promoting on c1. Alright, so we go. Sometimes we have to transition. So this move, rook to e1 is fine. Getting on an open file, there's some sort of threats or something. But then I play rook to d2. I correctly noticed we might want to play rook to d1, but the tactics just don't work out for white all that well. The rook to d1, you come down to d1, and they just kind of trade. E takes d1, and when I capture back, c takes d1 equals queen check. Then rook takes queen on d1, and my queen's left here hitting at nothing. But so this you have to think, what is there a way I can transition with this much space and the superior force? Of course I can. I just have to find it. I found it correctly with rook to d2. There's too many threats for white to face. Queen to f2 will threaten mate on the subsequent move. I've got a rook that can come in support of the d2 rook. There's the promotion threat after all this. So at this mode, as black, I have 2 minutes on the clock. You might start reserving mental resources. No, I'm not kidding. I mean, really, let your opponent make a move and then kind of react. I have enough time with 2 minutes. Wouldn't want that in tournament conditions, but over the internet in a blitz game, I'm thinking that queen to f2 is the end of the matter here. And what did I do? I made some kind of blunder. Alright, so let's think here. Black to move. We're going to find a better move than what I did. The better move is queen takes h4. Checkmate. That's it. I think I won this game somehow convincingly enough anyway. Yeah, okay. So I tied it up. I had my win in, as they say. I missed a one move checkmate, but I had calculated a more valuable or a more flexible win. This was a more, queen to f2, and then following with uh, queen takes h4 checkmate. That's spotting the opportunity, right? Jump on it right away. I'm defending myself. My missing the mate in one. I'm defending that because I had a more flexible win. That was like this: trade off, sack the queen, promote the queen with check, and then we have some cleaning up to do. My opponent resigned. Okay, so I like to tie this to as if played out full. I mean, like just played against computer in a way that what was that? I don't know why I played queen d6 there. That wasn't what I ended up doing. Queen takes f2. And then cut off the king. And checkmate on g3. A little bit about playing always to checkmate. If you play always to checkmate, or your game is ended in checkmate, or if you played against the computer from the resigned position all the way to checkmate, there's a few things about that. First of all, it means that you were able to handle tying up the position that your opponent resigned. Second of all, it gives yourself an anchor about like how to compare accuracy of one game against the other, or the other game against the one. If it always goes to checkmate, then crazy games have one less thing to vary from straightforward games on or upon. It's better mathematically and statistically. If you're really concerned about your chess game, as I am mine, then I would have accepted that. Yeah, so that's why sometimes I play against the computer all the way to checkmate. Find a game that goes all the way to checkmate, see how accurate it's judged to be, and have a better idea of how apples compare to apples and oranges compare to oranges. The apples and the oranges are both still there, but at least now we have if we've gotten rid of some, I don't know, hamburgers or hot dogs. They're not wildly different from one another. So with that being the case, we're now going to play the game. Is this in practice? Am I in practice right now? Black to move. We'll play the checkmate and see how accurate this version of, or this alternate ending, if you will, of the chess game might be. was silly there. Let's do that better. We owe it to ourselves to do that better there, Jordan. And find the mate in one on the correct move. We wait for the analysis again. In case you're wondering, we're going to be signing off in about 2 or 3 minutes. So we're just checking the accuracy again here, and then I'm going to do my sign off. Got up to the 90s. Fantastic. All right. I like to see that. Above 90 makes me feel good. A range, Jordan. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.